Warning: this video contains swearing, and this is not for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. And thank you, Amaya, for the art. I just recently watched the new Pixar movie Inside Out 2, and I thought it was amazing. When they first announced this movie and when the trailer came out, I had some mixed expectations with this movie. First off, I felt like Pixar hasn't been doing a good job with their movies since 2020. Onward was just mediocre. Luca was just okay. Turning Red was pretty decent. Lightyear sucked at but then followed with Elemental, which was cringe and had some really shitty puns.
An act of God or an act of Claude?
Shut your bitch ass up!
And my second reason on why I was so concerned with this movie is that this is a sequel to one of my favorite Pixar movies. When the first movie came out back in 2015, I thought it was great, but I did have some issues with the movie. Like how the story at times was a bit slow, not every joke I laughed at, and I wanted more scenes with Riley, and especially the other emotions like fear, disgust, and anger. Besides those issues, I still think it was one of the better Pixar movies of the 2010s, and did a great job with not only entertaining kids, but it does have something new to say about the concept of emotions. Now with Inside Out 2, I think this is better than the first movie, and I'm being dead serious. Before I talk about what I liked about the movie, let's talk about the plot first. The best summary I could give this movie without spoiling anything is that Riley is at the stage of being a teenager, and therefore, she has some new emotions to deal with. Crappy summary, I know, but I don't want to say anything too much since I think it's best to go in this movie not knowing too much. Now let's get into what I really liked about the movie. First off, the animation is beautiful as always from Pixar. And not to spoil too much, there were two characters in this movie that had 2D animation and video game like animation. One of the biggest improvements that Inside Out 2 did compared to the first movie is with the characters. Despite this being a sequel, and I really liked how these characters evolved, especially we get more screen time of anger, fear, and disgust. Joy in this movie, she has a lot of character to her, and especially that in terms of the themes of this movie, I really liked where it was going. Sadness is still one of my favorite characters, and come on, we just love how she's just so depressed about everything. And the new cast of emotions we get in this movie, I really like them, such as anxiety, embarrassment, ennui, and envy. Out of the new emotions in this movie, anxiety is my favorite. I liked how anxiety isn't exactly the main villain, given how the trailers portrayed her, but more or less she has the right intentions, but making Riley's situation a lot more panic-inducing. Riley in this movie has a lot more screen time, and given the main conflict, I really connected with her, especially back when I was in high school, and given her situation, this is so fucking relatable. The story itself might be too similar to the first movie, but honestly it didn't really bother me. The jokes in this movie were way more funnier than the first one. Now don't get me wrong, I like the jokes in the first movie, but I would say like I laughed 60% of the time. But in this one, I laughed about 90% of the movie. Now emotionally with this movie, I would say that I was about the same level like the first movie in terms of I was really teary-eyed. But there was one feeling I felt like during this movie. This movie really did a good job at triggering my anxiety. Now this does sound stupid for me saying like this for a kids movie, but they find a way to do such a good job at it, especially during the third act. Like I'm not even joking, like my heart was beating so fast. And this is a kids movie for crying out loud. And holy fuck, they did a good job at it.
Disappointment in the game of life!
As much as I like Inside Out 2, I really have only two complaints with this movie. While I felt like this movie had better pacing than the first one, there were times that I felt like it was going by way too fast. I think that this was done by design because of the main conflict, but I felt like if that was the case, I would say give this movie another 5 minutes so we could develop more of the characters. And speaking of the characters, one more issue I had with this movie is that the character Envy, she honestly didn't do too much in this movie in terms of affecting Riley compared to the other emotions. And I felt like maybe she should have been cut out or given more screen time.
I once had a homeless man in New York tell me to hurry the fuck up while I was handing him a dollar bill.
Overall, I feel like Inside Out 2 is a step in the right direction with Pixar. I've seen this movie only once, and I can't wait to see more of it, and hope we get a part 3 to this. As much as I want more original films from Pixar, Inside Out 2 is one of the few sequels that expands its world, and has the characters grow over time without feeling forced and make sense without making me feel like an idiot. A great sequel that surpasses its predecessor, and I give Inside Out 2 a 9 out of 10. So that was my review of Inside Out 2. I'd like to know what you guys thought about this movie in the comments. Did you love it? Did you hate it? And if you guys hate this movie, you clearly have no emotions to begin with. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm Ricky the Kitsune, signing off.